design software for the national medical system, whatever it was, and it was gathering information, Medicare information, for all people who to visit public hospitals. Now this is where users come in. When that company was going bankrupt, the government was caught off guard because they could not just lift the information or their code and say, look, we're now giving this stuff to another company to manage. Actually, they were bankrupt, they had no more money, and when the government brought up the proposal of shifting all the information to another organization, they said, hey, you have to pay us for that IP. It was proprietary, no one could access it. We were not allowed anyway, even by law. So eventually the government paid them enough money to get back into business. Are we together? Now you can see, assuming that company, out of malice or something, had decided not to hand over that information, all the records of the citizens of the UK would be endangered. The same could happen to us. We have the national ID system now that has come up, and many other integrated systems we are setting up. First technologies for our driving permits, you know, URA, our tax records as individuals, most of them are being hosted on proprietary systems. Tomorrow, if the government says, hey, we want to cancel the contract of Tata Consulting Services, there will be a big problem. And it will sit down to we, the consumers. You may not be told what it is in detail, but the reality is, if you are given an option, you say, hey, why not use the code, open code, so we can be sure that no one will tie our hands. So there are many others that I could bring up, but also integration. As a user, I may want to be, today I get so bothered, for example, you go to the bank, you have to fill in information which is already available in another government database. You apply for a passport, the same information you filled in the bank is requested separately. You go to the tax authorities, you're applying for a TIN, the same information is being requested. Now, why is this happening? Because most of these organizations are having silo systems based largely on proprietary related software. If it was open, integration would be seamless and it would make my life a lot easier, because I would simply quote my national ID number and everything flows across. So those to me are very clear issues that show that open source is a perfect alternative, security-wise and also privacy-wise. Actually, it can be, because people think that the fact that open software or open code, everyone can view it, so it's not secure. It's like saying that you will prevent thieves from entering your house because you have a padlock that they whose technical details they don't know about. You won't. In any case, if both of you knew how that padlock is designed, then even you, the housekeeper, will take necessary extra precautions because you know the weaknesses in that padlock. And if there are enhancements you want to make, you can make enhancements to that padlock. So the fact that this code is available for everyone does not necessarily mean that it is dangerous. That is the fear, uncertainty, and doubt that is being spread most of the times. So with that, I think. I've been reminded that all the questions I was supposed should be addressed at once. The second one was, which of the two approaches, Big Bang or phased progressive approach, do you think are the best ways to the utilization of open source by government? Now, some of you may say, what is the Big Bang? If you have taken time to study about the origin of the world or the universe as per the scientists, okay? Because there's the religious approach and the scientific approach. The scientific approach is the Big Bang, that somewhere, somehow there was darkness, then hydrogen particles came together, and boom, substance was created. Then the matter began coalescing, forming planets, and that's how we got the Earth. And somehow life came from nowhere. That's the Big Bang, so it's instant. Then there's a phased approach. In my view, I think for government to adopt open source, we need a phased approach. Why do I say we need a phased approach?
Meaning? That's my upstream link.
Change management.
It's not helping.
Is the first reason.
It's better.
We all know what it
Because
takes
about
to
the
create
constant
change
connection
in any organization, even a home. Change management is something very important. So for you to wake up and say, from today onwards, we are not going to buy meat in this house, you will only eat beans, there is a problem. Your children will riot. However, you can say, we've been eating meat 4 days in a week. Now let's reduce to twice a week. After a month, you reduce to once a week. And probably after a year, you're purely vegetarian diet. So we'll scale that up from the family to government. You're dealing with millions of people who are using various systems, and some of them are actually enabling others to get the benefit of these services. So if you look at the various government organizations, wherever you come from, they are the so-called IT people, the administrators, the managers, and the top, the decision makers. All these people, their minds need to be progressively configured. Progressively. 13 years ago, I was here in Munene. I was invited to talk to a meeting of ministers on open source. But believe you me, I'm sorry to say this, but I say it respectfully. It's like I was speaking to Dead Wood. Today, the level of emotion I have sitting in front of you here with Dr. Turaki on my right, who was a lecturer to my wife, by the way, in the Faculty of Technology. To my left, there is a doctor also, Kitogo, Lynette, and many others, all of you here in this room. And we are talking open source. When I was coming in the morning, I heard in the news, there's an open source conference in Idlelo. I had to call in immediately. The meeting ended. I said, I am heading there right now. Okay? But 12 years ago, you could not imagine such. We would try to slip articles into newspapers. They would even ignore us. What are you talking about? Okay? So the phased approach, over time, there has been a change of perceptions. A lot has transformed progressively. And so I believe the phased approach will get us there. Because there are some other reasons, some people have in government for not wanting open source. But I don't want to get into that. That's a debate for another day. So I prefer the phased approach because also there are different facets involved in a changing management. What are some of those facets? There are some technical issues and non-technical issues. Different factors undergo. You have political, commercial interests also to balance. Now, while you may want to have the right, if you had asked me this question 15 years ago, I would have told you, Big Bang, let's go open source today and now. But they say an old broom seems to know the corners. And over time I have learned that when you want certain things, especially when you're governing a community of people, you have to put so many interests into consideration. And you're better off looking at the longer term goal than an immediate goal. I know today we have the fast food approach towards our implementation. We want things now, here and now, today. Leave this place, you have your car. Leave this place, you have open source in all government departments. That's what we love to see. But sometimes it is wise to take a slightly longer term approach. And what would the kind of roadmap be if we are to get there? In no particular order, I think the kind of roadmap we need if we are to get into open source and ensuring that it is used by our government on a wide scale. One, awareness and sensitization has to grow or increase. It's already there, but it's still at a low level. If we can up our game in that regard, then we should be able to make, we shall be laying the right foundation to see the progress we want in the open source era. Two, the legal regime. Laws, policies matter a lot with government. Nothing is done without being backed up by policies and laws. So once the laws are in place, we already have quite a number of cyber-related laws, but however, others like the data laws, policies, and anything that I will probably not be thinking about right now, that would require some sort of legal backing, we need to make sure that we have them in place. Then also there's need to design a master plan. One of the challenges we have in African countries, who is from Nigeria here? There are some things I'm going to talk. I've been in Nigeria. I love Nigerians. I've been there, your villages, very honest people. Unfortunately, the few who are in other capitals like London, River, don't spoil the name, but one time I was in a village area in Nigeria, I misplaced my wallet, I knew it had gone, and I was like, I will never get this, I can't even think about this in Nigeria.
Was it an office?
A guy brought it to me in the hotel where I was staying. Oga, here is your laptop, here. Very honest guys. But anyway, let me get back to you. Master plans are very important. We may say we want to get ABC. For example, now we are saying in Uganda, middle income by this year. But there is need to have a master plan that can be actually pursued or followed. The time I took to Nigeria alone, there were issues of this planning. We plan this, we don't do it. Same thing here in Uganda. We make very brilliant plans, very good policies. On paper, if they were to rate countries that are e-ready in Africa, I am definitely sure Uganda is among the top 7, without missing my words. If they are to rate us based on paper, get down to the ground. Some of these master plans help us. Why? You know that you're going to follow something in a phased approach. You can't say we are going to deploy open source in all the government departments tomorrow, and yet you haven't, for example, trained people. You haven't understood the implications of the change of some of those systems. So once you have that master plan, then you can now get to implementing it. And one of the things which comes in key is the skills. We need to develop skills of both government and non-government actors. Because it's not only all about training the IT people in the government institutions, no. Even non-IT, the users, those people we interface with when we are going into government offices, they all need the training. But also us in the private sector, everywhere in school, through schools, we need some sort of training syllabuses. You need some schools. One time I had a fight with one of the schools where my children go, and I told them, look, I want to install, I want you people to start installing some Linux on this computer. They said, why? Because you're denying our children other skills in other areas. They said, no, this is what we use and this is going to be it. I went to the headmaster and I told him, the students you are churning out of this school are going to have a very narrow focus. So it's important that we spread out. And I'm happy to say that now they have some dual-boot computers there as a result of my efforts. The revision of procurement regime, that's also important as part of the long-term strategy. Procurement. If you have consulted with government and you find out how some of these systems are got, you will be shocked, especially I will speak for Uganda. Okay? You get shocked when you find that we can spend national resources on software that still remains under the ownership of the supplier. Isn't that crazy? You spend millions designing for us this software, but you don't own it. I had to rewrite an entire big document for a government organization not long ago, and I insisted that that software, whoever is going to design it, the winning company, must hand over every little winning bit of it to you. And they were saying, no, that's not how we do it in government. I said, you are letting us down as citizens. So I insisted on what I had done. Then finally, the government should now go ahead, after doing some of these other things I've mentioned, and actually begin deploying these systems. Embrace them. Let us not run away from them. They may be hard initially, but with a proper strategy and a proper roadmap, it is easy for us to seamlessly get into the open systems, open data, and open everything. Thank you.
Another combat, open source combat, in his discourse. Fred, we have the last one, because we need to also give time for people to interact. So please, take the mic.
Thank you very much. I have two questions. The first one is, in Uganda's perspective, how do you rate the maturity of open source software to warrant a country policy direction on open source software? I just wanted to make a distinction about, firstly, about different categories of open source software. We have number one, starting from the lowest level, the operating systems. You see, we have like Windows, we have Linux and all those. Now Linux is open source. Windows is proprietary, and many other examples. Then we have the Office tools. Like you have Microsoft Office, that's proprietary. Then we have Open Office, which is purely free. We also have database management systems. We have SQL Server, we have very many others. We have Oracle, we have DB2, those are proprietary. Then we have the application solutions. These are solutions developed for particular business areas, which can be developed by several players. The proprietary ones are very expensive. An average enterprise resource planning system does not cost less than $1 million for 50 users. That is, say, that's average an enterprise resource planning system. There are similar systems which are developed in open source, which could cost up to less than 10,000 US dollars, and also tested. So we need to look at all those categories. I will go ahead and give you some examples just to put this in context. Government has 200,000 public servants at the minimum. Most of these public servants use Microsoft Office. The license for a year of Microsoft Office is 120 US dollars. Am I correct, Julius? So what does that translate into a year? How much does government pay for 200,000 public servants? It is about 24 million US dollars. Am I correct in my computation? Without taking into consideration security, do you need security for your typing letters and what? You do not need much security. They've hacked into my Word document. No? Okay. So we need to look at it from that perspective. So there are different layers and categories of open source. So, having given you that background, that the government could, for instance, on only Microsoft Office, save 24 million US dollars in a year, which can be used for something else. That is warrant enough to consider open source as very serious contender to proprietary software. Now back to the question. The question is, how do we rate the maturity of open source software in the country? There could be three levels. One could be the basic, the intermediate, and then the advanced. I would say comfortably that we are at the basic level. The basic level really entails being with the community though it might not be very organized, but a community which can develop the solutions using open source software. We have very many young innovators developing apps in the different ministries, departments, and agencies. By the way, I want to highlight one institution, the Uganda Judiciary. They develop software internally. They have developed software internally, which is open source. When I started working in 1993, I was employed as a programmer in Uganda Revenue Authority. We were a team of young programmers, just right from university. The first systems for collection of taxes were developed internally by us, a team. My colleagues are still there, Mr. James Caesar, also. They are still there in the URA. I left, but we developed those systems internally, and they were actually collecting taxes. And it is the basis against which a SCUDA was developed and taken on an e-tax. So we are developing systems internally. So the capabilities are there. So we have very many. We have very well-educated public servants. We have very well-educated employees in banks. I know in certain banks they actually develop solutions. They develop banking solutions. Though the traders come in, we need the other proprietary. Traders come in government, we need the big ERPs. But actually, the precedent is there. So really, we are at maturity level. I think basic. We have the ability to do what? To develop the software. But the second level is the intermediary. What we are lacking is maintainability and stability. Most of the solutions that are developed, they're one time off. People develop solutions. Once they get jobs, they move into another job, they leave the solution there, so it cannot be maintained. That makes it difficult for the clients to trust the solutions and say, what will happen if this guy who developed this software moves to another area. Another one is the requirements management. We do not manage our requirements properly. We develop solutions which might not necessarily be consumed or which do not translate into marketable products. Because you find very many innovators, young innovators with very many apps. This app does this, but they have not gone to find out what the challenges are, what are the critical issues that should be solved. So we need that requirements management, and that has to be an ecosystem where there's government, there's the private sector, there are regulators, there are the university, the academia, and the research institutions working together to be able to have that ecosystem where we say, this is our country direction, this is what we want to do. So this is the main focus for innovation and open source. And then the technical environment, already we have been told that the environment is not very good. People lack the servers, people lack the software, people lack access to computing resources. And the force community is also not very strong. Some time back it was strong, but when proprietary software took over, then the communities dwindled away. So that's level 2 of maturity, which we aim to go to. Then the third level is the product integration, where you have small pieces, but they can be integrated into main products, which can be consumed and add great value, like enterprise resource planning systems. You find small apps doing small business functions, but we need to integrate that into media. Then also risk management. Risks have not been looked at in terms of security and the like. So that's level 3, where we need to go through a roadmap. So all those warrant us to have policy in place as government to be able to support the current, to move from one level to another. What is the direction? We want to ensure that when procurements of software are being considered, consideration must be given to free and open source software as an alternative to that. And there should be proper justification that we are going for proprietary because this open source is not able to take care of this. We want also to ensure that it is in conformance with the Government Enterprise Act and interoperability framework, such that we set standards, minimum standards for the open source software, such that if it meets those standards, then it should be able to compete with proprietary software. Otherwise, for now, procurers just go for proprietary software. Another one is we need it to support business objectives, and we need, above all, what the policy direction is to have capability, security into consideration, scalability, transferability, and all those. So that's the policy direction that government needs to put in place. And how shall that be done? To support the communities, to support provision of computing resources, creation of ICT parks, innovation centers of excellence, and the like, but supported by policy. Now, the next one was how ready do you think government is to accept open source software as an alternative to proprietary software? And what are the main drivers? My background mentioned a little bit of this, but what does government is ready? Why? Because government wants to lower the cost of its doing what? Business. Government wants to support local innovation. The issue of jobs amongst the youth is very high on the agenda of government. So they want to support the youth to be able to market their products, and the products being consumed by government. Then another one is interoperability and use of open standards. We don't want a lock-in that this software cannot interoperate with another software. So government is intending to have an open system because we are going to do an integration of all government systems. How possible will that be when you have a DB2, database or application which does not talk to Oracle? So we want those open standards. And then we need also local support to be able to support these solutions locally in Uganda. Thank you very much. Sorry.
Thank my panelists for those sharing their experiences in the various topics that were discussed. You will notice that, of course, we are behind schedule and time. But nonetheless, you are here, this is your conference, and you came here to exchange, to share views. So you might have to stay a bit longer at the end to catch up, but I think this might be the time for you, the audience, to react to the presenters, to react to what comment or ask a question. I would like to have someone with the microphone to walk around. Phileas, where are your people? The mic. Can you help me to manage the... Yeah, can you come in front? I want to give the Nena first, which was itching to say something. In front row.
Very many thanks to the panelists. I wanted to say two things. The first was to give my respect to Linux, who thinks he's young but is doing great things in Kenya and driving a whole lot of things, and also ask a question. have you done any kind of study, any kind of assessment, what Kenya has gained from open data so far? What have you gained? It's true, we can say we are losing money, but it's also more important for me to show the gains from such policy moves. Thank you.
Right behind you, there's a...
Okay, thank you.
Please mention your name and...
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. My name is Joe Oscar. Briefly, for me, everything has been spoken and very brilliant ideas have been given. But I'm not yet contented with threats to national security concerning people's privacy when it comes to open source. In fact, if you look at what the Iranians did to the Israelites, they hacked into their account because they had open source. And also the Israelites did the same thing to the Iranians due to open source. So you have testimonies of what is going on. The same thing is happening between the Koreas, North and South Korea. You get what I'm saying? Thank you very much.
To your right, your left.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm Kelvin. My question might go
So, if you can also mention the organization you're from. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I come from Global Business Labs. Yeah, so my question goes to Lynette. Yeah, we're talking about open source, and there's a say that a transparent person is one who can shower in the river, but not in the bathroom. So unfortunately, all of us shower in the bathroom. And now, we've been talking about people coming out with new innovations, which can build solutions, but we need information in order to come, information that we can add to the innovations. But if we try to access this information, let's say from the government institutions, we are tossed from one office to another until we give up. So I'm asking, what strategies are you using, especially in Kenya, to have access to this information that we can borrow? And then what advice can you give to the government so that they can free for us the information in case we go to seek from them? Thank you so much.
Excuse me, yeah, but you need to walk around because you're just concentrated in that area. Thank you, Dr. Flori, and the presenters. First of all, I'd like to personally commend Kenya as a country. If the Uganda government is to borrow this, I think Kenyan agencies, many of them, have already developed solutions which we actually use using open source tools. The best example I'd like to give is in the mining sector, because I come from national investors. Our counterpart company in Kenya, which is called Cancer, their entire business solution is internally developed. It's developed using open source tools. Their database, they use PostgreSQL, and the interface is based on PHP and a lot of other open source tools. And I think it's a shame for us to benchmark very far from, East Africa, when Kenya is here, for other government entities. I think we need to only go back, the people will normally will work. I think we need to share with us what are the experiences so that our government can learn from that. And even us, to develop confidence to do things on our own. Because personally, I know that in most of our universities, where the ways you see them, very few people will tell you that they're teaching there. The students using the boring, but they're all using Java, PHP, and things like that. And as we know, until my scale of some giant company, people even started moving to Maria people. If we know what I'm talking about. Those who know open source, we know what I'm talking about when I mention such things. We go to a lot of inspirational talks in the morning. in relation to open standards, open data, open this. I've not had anything like proprietary data. You know, everything talks about open standards, the one that was open, 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 open. I don't see why it is very difficult for us to appreciate and even feel very uncomfortable to promote a bit, to create and to this. When one tends to move to open, which means that there's a good thing at the end of the time which we should all adopt.
Can you please make it brief?
That's all good. Yeah, thanks. Dr. Chifugo was trying to talk about how far government has come, whether we are ready or not. But I think the readiness should also be invisible in the governance structure. The readiness can be demonstrated by having focal persons in either DITA or Ministry of ICT who the people for us want to develop solutions. Like at NMS, we are very good internal solutions, but we know that we created somebody in Ministry and ICT. I think, yes, we need to address that. Then the issue of Big Bang, which was talked about, I think Uganda is already adopting open source. So there is nothing like incremental or Big Bang. The thing is just to streamline all the efforts that are in place into policies and frameworks that can be done. And I think the rest of the African countries can borrow, because I think this is an African conference, not just Uganda. So basically, those are my comments. Some are basically supplementary and a few are just comments.
Yes, Andrew, but I think we need to stop it there. So after Andrew, so respond to those comments and.
Okay, thank you. As the Dr. Tulai has already mentioned, I'm called Andrew Batiza. I work with the URSB. I'm one of the people who are taking notice of and when I'm doing procurement or related, I usually have preferences. But in order to go open source, we have a number of challenges. And these are some of the one I've made, because I'm on a project where we are trying to digitalize the company registry. So it's a big project, and my idea would have been open source, but this is one of the steps government is taking now to digitalize some of these agencies. One of the biggest challenges is procurement. When you are procuring, you realize that there is always a tendency to say, oh, are you all encompassing, are you not being seen biased? And that's why you find when you seem to be oriented to open source, you have procurement challenges. Maybe someone should look at the procurement policies and rules of the country if this path must be taken. But it's a big challenge, although it seems to be silent, but it's a big challenge on procurement. And of course, the tendency of government of saying procurement, mainly you are relying on compliance than looking at the value for money. The law is skewed to that aim of more compliance than the value for money. Another area which possibly would need the panelists to address is what was talked about, change management. We have not reached a level where most of the MDAs or most of the public is able to use the appropriate applications and possibly even appreciate that open source is better. So the change management from someone who has been always using, say, Microsoft Word and Open Office. Another area which needs to be addressed is the inter-system agency integration. Different agencies implement different different applications using different different technologies. This is where open source becomes very important, because with open source we will be able to create inter-agency interfaces easier than the situation now. There's so much speed in creating interfaces, yet it could be much cheaper with open source. This is an area which needs really to be addressed.
Maybe the last thing on this is policy. We have so many policies on the ICT, but implementation of the policies again is a challenge. Either they are not understood or possibly they are not well sold to different agencies to be able to try and abide by them. But we need enabling laws. Much as the laws, maybe we need to sensitize the public much more on these laws which are already in place. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So we have two comments from there. I would like now to call upon the panelists to summarize, and I don't know whether 2 minutes is not all, but just keep it brief and react to the comments raised. I'll start from my right.
Okay, starting with Nena's question, and I'm going to combine that. I'm going to combine that with the question of access to information and incentives to the government. So some of the wins that we've really seen in Kenya, as I mentioned, we've actually spent a lot of money in putting together the project. But now we are about to enact our access to information bill. So we have actually seen a whole overhaul in legislation just to support the idea of opening up information. We have a lot of data literacy every single week in Kenya. Last week, there were 2 conferences going on. Almost every single week, there's something about data going on, and this has just come up over the past 3 years because of the amount of awareness that we've been able to create. And now we're seeing private sector, civil society starting to talk more about data. We're starting to see government as well, being very involved in the idea of data. So this is a really good win when we talk about policy making and decision making based on data. Then we are on the forefront of supporting a lot of other government institutions, civil society organizations, and private sector as the open data team. We have a budget, and we are constantly supporting and sponsoring events and various activities around the idea of data literacy. We have worked, as you know, Kenya now has a devolved system of government. That means we have 47 counties, and we have been going so far this year. We've reached 15 counties, and hopefully by the end of the year we will have reached all the counties. Now we have people in the villages talking about open data. I mean, for me, that's a big thing. It's not just in Nairobi. We meet county officials, every other week and talk to them about data and talk to them about how they can leverage data. So we have a country really of people who hopefully that year will become data. And we have a lot of digitization that is going on in data standards. We have a lot of demand, and our approach has pretty much been demand and supply. So we had a lot of demand of data, but now we are seeing institutions within government putting together budgets to start digitizing and storing data just so citizens can access it. I mean, without this, I don't think that we would have had as much success. And in terms of an incentive to the government, really, sometimes the government is very afraid of opening up because then it's like you're going to be scrutinized and you're opening up yourself. But what we've realized is when you give citizens enough information, they become bored. They go to the next thing. So if you want the citizens to be out of your neck, just give them as much information as possible. Then we're seeing a lot of data standards where a lot of institutions, just like when we use different proprietary software in different institutions, they name things differently. Probably your name in one institution is met with a double N. If you go to another institution, it's a single N. If you go to another institution, it's with a Y, depending on how people wanted to, spell it. Now we are in a position where we're bringing together government officials in one group and showing them what can be done. And we've seen a lot of adoption in single unified systems and being able to standardize how data is collected and how data is actually stored. So in terms of why this access to information is very important or how Kenya has been able to do it is we've created a one-stop shop. Beyond the idea of open data is we have put all this information in one website. So you don't have to remember where the Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Information, Education, Health, whatever is. You just need to remember opendata.go.ke, and when you go in there, you have as much information. I'll tell you, when we are requesting information, I have to, as the project manager, I have to write a letter to my CEO, who has to write a letter to the PS, who has to write a letter to the CS, who then writes to the CS in the next ministry, and then it goes down to the PS, to the CEO, to the person that I want, the information from. As a citizen, normally that's almost the kind of step you have to do. Now imagine if you're a researcher and you want to go to 5 government institutions, you have to go through that kind of step. So what Open Data is doing is we're trying to kind of reduce that stress for you and work government to government and make this information accessible to you as a citizen without any hassle. And then someone asked a question on threats. Not to be taken wrongly, I did not say that governments cannot achieve the idea of being open source. I'm saying that governments need to invest. If you make a conscious decision that you're going to be open source, you need to invest in making sure that you have, if there's a country attacking another country, I'm sure these countries have the resources to actually, attack each other at that level. You don't want to be found, on the ground and your opponent has a sword and really being clear. So if a government decides to go open source, there needs to be the investment on the people who can support that, who can develop around it, and who can ensure that these systems are secure. At the end of the day, we're talking about people's information. We're talking about being able to be protected as a citizen, and for your private information, for government secrets, for example, not to be launched out there without any kind of awareness around it. And then finally on procurement, and I like what he said, what we do, or whenever I'm involved in any kind of procurement, part of when you're doing procurement, you can make the request of what you need. The Tanzanian government did a data analysis system last year. They procured one with the support of the World Bank. But one of the conditions was it must be open source. So the person the guys who developed it, I think are called Development Gateway, they're not exactly an open source company, but then because they got the tender, they have to comply with that. So as a government, sometimes it seems impossible, but then you can negotiate. Even if you're getting a service from Microsoft or you're getting a service from Intel or Apple, you can negotiate and say, whatever system you are developing, it must be open source. And I bet they will definitely comply with that. Very, very lastly, in terms of change management, I'd like to say our problem is we tend to think that government is full of intelligent robots that have been programmed perfectly with AI to do things a certain way. Just back to his example, these are people, the same way you would do change management in your house when it comes to the meals, is the same way you have to do change management with people within government. These are human beings, and at the end of the day, if you approach them in an attacking way, they will become defensive. You have to show them why should they change, why should they adopt open source. So don't expect just because they are government, they're going to take anything the citizen says. These are human beings as well, they need to be incentivized.
Thank you. James, maybe the questions touched on so just 1 minute or two.
Oscar, he brought up the issue of how open source tends to expose systems to easier hacking. I wonder what basis and what conclusion, what led to that conclusion. And even the example you gave of Iran and Israel, I don't think you are basing on any factual data or information to say that Iran hacked Israel or vice versa because of open source. The reality is any software system can be broken into. And I'm speaking this as a security professional also. Never fool yourself because no one has access to your Windows system that won't hack you. Someone can take control. That's why even the likes of Mark Zuckerberg today will openly tell you that that camera on their laptop, they always put tape on it. You can have a laptop open in your room doing other things, someone is seeing all your activity online. So when it comes to that, I think it's not an open source or non-open source issue. It's more about one not having their defenses in place or someone being better than you at the game. I'll take you back to 1999. I was a systems administrator in Infocom, which is now an Infomail, the precursor to Infocom. And there was a hack which came up globally. I forgot the name of the hack, but they would send packets of data
to servers, and that when that data approaches your server, it will force you to reboot continuously. Now that was more of a denial of service, because if your server is just rebooting, how are your customers going to get access to information? But believe you me, when it came to getting a solution to that problem, it was affecting all systems, from Windows all the way to Unix, Linux. But the very first which got a solution to that was Linux within 2 days, followed by FreeBSD after 3.5 days, followed by the Unix systems. Microsoft got a solution after 2 weeks. Okay? Now what does that show you? I think there's a message you can get just through that example alone. But for other details, we can talk after this session.
Thank you. That was a good bit.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I think the others have been touched on. Readiness, governance structures, absolutely, that is really taken. And the initiative of creating an innovation center of excellence helps sort out that. Then the other one of challenges, Andrew talked about procurement challenges. I want to say yes and no. I've participated in very many evaluation teams, but the tendency, especially in government, is when you want to develop specifications of a system, you exactly go on the internet, download maybe a Microsoft, Oracle system, get those specifications, and actually put them in your big document. Guess what? When people are evaluating and there's an open source solution, it will not meet exactly those terms of reference, because you have downloaded them from what? They are fixed. They match maybe an Oracle solution, so they push out the what. So another area which we need not to blame it on procurement is also to put it on change as IT professionals. Those days we used to specify the system properly according to what we want, but today we specify according to what is out there. So we are not user driven. You look and say, yes, that system is good, the Oracle one. So you download the specs and then so when it comes to procurement, of course the Oracle solution will have to do what? The open source will not what? Will not thrive. I also wanted to add on something on the security. Security is, I don't know if you have heard of this. The URL system was hacked into some time. URL uses proprietary software now. It was hacked into. So that wasn't open source. What needs to be done is to have information security in whatever we do. To your information, we have an information security, national information security, which defines the type of data and their security levels. So if we say open source is going to bring a threat to our data, yes, we can categorize and say, if it is, say, a normal system for marketing, then use open source as we strengthen the other one, which is going to handle sensitive data. But not to say that because it can be hacked into, even if you give it as a reason, it's not reason enough to look out what? Open source. And also, this proprietary software, the hacks are not normally talked about. Well, when you have an open source system, it is subject to very many players who actually keep on testing and try to hack into that system. So they try as much as possible. So by the time you put out a product, it's really what? Almost hack-proof. But these other proprietary software, they do not say the challenges they get because they protect their own person.
Thank you, Fred. It has come to 4 p.m. And I wanted to stop this panel here. But also, having been part of the organizing team, I had a suggestion that maybe we can have tea after. the next session? Because there's only one session to go and we close. So can we continue? Here is unanimous. Let's continue. So I guess members of the next panel should get ready to come to the podium, and for us, we are stopping here. But maybe I would request you to clap for my members. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rai, for handling the session. Let's give him a clap also.
So, when someone from Ministry of Finance wanted to say something, I don't know. Is it a question? Is it part of my session? But please don't delay us any longer. So make it brief. You can shout.
Yes, thank you very much. My name is Alan from the Ministry of Finance, Competitiveness and Investment Climate Strategy, Statistics. I'm here for my boss as well, Dr. Peter Andategizi, the National Coordinator. And I want to just make a few remarks on what Mr. James talked about with the master plan. Basically, one of the offices that KICS does is to ensure an ease of doing business, to ensure that the business environment is actually good and secure enough for all people to participate. And I'm seeing an issue whereby this can apply even in open source software. And it's one of the issues which were raised as the boss also prepared us to make a bit of research to see how we can participate in the process. And we realized that venture capitalist firms could help in this area. How? Venture capitalist firms have a lot of experience in terms of business and regulations, along with the issues which developers and open source software evangelists go through to make their things work out. Because you find that most of the time, these guys don't have the experience, they don't know who to reach out to, they don't know where to go to regulate their businesses. But often, venture capitalist firms, since they have that reach to various bodies of the government, they can provide a step up from that. Then also, lastly, is much as we put this plan forward, is something key that we have to note. It is analytics and data. Because organizations depend on information. Like someone was asking, we don't need to do some information within Kenya for open source data. I think we shall also need a platform to be put in place to report all what is happening on the use regarding open source usages. Because it will guide the people who are willing to invest in it, plus those who are willing to venture into various areas after studying and knowing exactly where they want to use the open source software to apply the various areas. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. I think the discussion on that can continue in the next session. I don't want to give these guys a chance. So, the next panel members, please come forward.
Thank you, Dr. Furai and your team. Our next session is about your indulgence. We are about to conclude. The next session is about force in education. And may I have, let us call these people to come forward. Mr. Ambrose Nyoka, Dr. Peter Nabende, Mr. Samim Mohammed, Professor Jude Lubega, and Mr. Maximus Diamukama. Mr. Ambrose Nyoka, Mr. Samim Mohammed, Professor Jude Lubega, and Mr. Maximus Diamukama. This session will be chaired by Mr. Ambrose Walker, the gentleman who is taking his seat in the middle. Mr. Ambrose Walker currently works with Global Partnership for Education Support Uganda Teacher and School Effectiveness Project under Ministry of Education, and the project is supervised by the IDA and the World Bank. He is also the Vice President of ISOC Uganda chapter, as well as governmental advisory committee representative for ICANN in Uganda. Previously, Ambrose worked in the Ministry of ICT as acting commissioner for information technology, the position I hold now. And he was also the principal of Uganda Institute of ICT before joining the World Bank project. And he's the immediate vice president of ISAC Kampala chapter. So, Ambrose, you're most welcome. Kindly introduce your team. And I don't know whether you want people, some people might be a little bit stressed, if they could stand up a little bit and take us, so that they don't lose of moving into the next session. So please introduce your members, but also request that members stand up a little bit.
Thanks, Julius. I think with what you have proposed, you first stand up in fact, touch the ceiling. I have pictures here, so you stand up in fact, touch the ceiling. As much as you can. As much as you can. I need to touch the ceiling. All right, then, thank you. Thank you.
That was very articulate.
Julius, thank you for that. Distinguished participants and the panel here, and the organizer of the conference, thank you for giving us the opportunity before you share our experiences and our opinions with you. And for me, we have a panel of experienced educationists and experts in the area that we're talking about. I've been from my left, we have Dr. Peter Madembe. He's the Department of Information Systems in the College of Computing and Information Sciences at Macquarie University. Dr. Please, I have Shaman Mohammed, he's a specialist in ICT, infrastructure and strategy at ISBAT. Dr. Mohammed. We have Max Yamkama, he's the Dean of Faculty of Science and Technology, Victoria University. Welcome, Max. To my right, Professor Guru Reda, and he's the Vice Chancellor of Uganda Technology. Deputy Vice Chancellor, thanks for the introduction. Deputy Vice Chancellor, the PAM, which is Uganda Technology. You come it's a popular brand. All right. Okay. I've been advised that we have 0 minutes because we are supposed to begin at 3 and we start at 4. And it's just 4 right now. So we shall operate in a space of 0 minutes and try and see how we can complete our session, not jeopardizing the other issues. But having experienced professionals here and the limited time that we have, and our theme being first in education, I will invite each of the distinguished panelists along the time slot of 3 to 4 minutes to tell us in their perspective and their institutions what they are doing as far as force education and force in education. Those are two fields, and force in the work, they get it very well. What your institutions are doing, one, as well as force education and then also force in education. I will start with Dr. Peter, and then after we'll have another round of discussion. Please.
Thank you, moderator. Good evening to everyone. I think this is an open discussion, so it's not like question and answer as in the previous case. But as the moderator said, in the interest of time, I'll stick to force in education with respect to Makerere University, where I'm coming from. We could talk about force in two ways. The software itself, how we give it to students and they learn from it or they utilize it and we use it also for our own research purposes and any other things. But we could talk about it as being at the center in facilitating the learning process. The education process itself. So there are many, initially this this idea of force, I should say, originates from academia, from the time the Unix systems were created. And in academia it has been strong, and in most institutions you find that they are using open source software. And that is the case with Makerere as well. For most of our practical course units, we promote the use of open source software. It's only in a few cases where we have to use some proprietary software, but in most cases we are promoting the use of open source software. The previous panelists have already identified, have already defined this open source software, what it is, given categories of it, and these different categories are as well used at university in Makerere. From the Linux operating system, which in our case at my school is one of is a major operating system we put on machines that students use, up to different applications. And then, of course, they talked about database software and so on. We use different software. As far as the learning process itself is concerned, we use learning management systems where we provide materials. In Makerere, we have a system called Mwele, which is customized from an open source software platform called Moodle. As far as learning is concerned, we are using open source software, and this is also used for research purposes as well. For those who are researching in electronic learning, we kind of try to see how they can advance these systems in that context. So for us, this software benefits us in many ways, as I believe it benefits many other institutions, which I will just mention in the interest of time. I want to go into details, just maybe to be like an evangelist for other people. So these advantages or these benefits, of course, I think are very straightforward. So first of all, we lower costs by using these softwares, and people have talked about avoiding licenses and any other complications that come with them. So this is one way we gain from that. Then people have talked about security of this open source software. From a very good example was given in the previous session about that attack and how the open software community was able to deal with the problem in very quick time. So that's a very good advantage. And then this open source software encourages open philosophy, which is consistent with academic freedom, as previous panelists said. The thing here we are trying to encourage is the freedom that is associated with using this software, and not the use of free software. So it is that aspect of freedom that this open source software is consistently far as academics is concerned. Since in academia we try to encourage open sharing of knowledge and so on. Then it also encourages innovations. Without this open source software, it would be very hard to try to encourage innovations because it allows people to modify things, try out new ideas and many other things. Then it is also an alternative to illegal copying. And something that I'm interested in is localization. For a multilingual country like this one, Uganda, we are interested in trying to avail some of these software products in different languages. And for us, I believe that making it or using this open source software, we are able to achieve this aspect of localization. And then for our students, of course, they are able to learn much from the source code. So that is it, I think, with terms, with presentation.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Experiences here. I will provide Mr. Howard show us experiences, force in education, and force education as far as SMX is concerned.
Thank you, Roberta. Good evening, team. Talking about the force has two impacts: force in education and as well as force education. When you talk about force in education, the major concern came out to me was setting up the ICT infrastructure. When it comes to ICT infrastructure, when a university wants to expand its business or to serve the maximum amount of students' community, they want to make sure the lion's share of the fund should go to the ICT infrastructure. When they were trying to calculate the risk, cost, benefit analysis, the management would have suggested, yeah, let us go for an open source system. But the next question comes from, can it bear the burden? Yes, it can. If UK Open University can bear the burden. If the PayPal, the largest money transfer institute, can bear the burden. Or the German air traffic control, they can bear the burden. Of course, yes, and university setting up an ICT infrastructure can bear the burden. Where the burden comes from? When you are doing analytics, where the burden comes from? The cost, the licensing cost, security, as people were talking about, administration, scalability, data processing, infrastructure administration, DevOps, that is core business application, business continuity and disaster recovery, and content management, maybe a library system or an exam service portal. These are all the different types of infrastructures that an university or an education system try to bear enough. So the question is put on, can open source bear this burden? Not to compromise the holistic learning culture or an exciting learning environment? Yes, the answer is yes. That is what inspired us to move into the open source. No license costing, because the cost is zero. Actually, when you mention the cost is zero, don't think that everything is free. Obviously, we need to pay for the support. But the good thing with education is you train people to handle the source codes, or however you call it, as an open source. So you're parallelly running a battalion behind you to bear the cost. In fact, most of the university, they try to set up a club, or we call it as an force club or any open source club, to address that supporting and management issue. When people usually talk about open source, the first disadvantage comes from no abundant support. We get into the internet, and the most reason people go into proprietary system is, you have someone to call. Hello, my system is off. Oh, please come and fix it. How soon as possible? My management is down. This is a simple word, you finish it up. But with open source, you have to bear the burden. So the good thing with education is you have a big team behind you to support, and obviously we get rid of it. The second thing is hardware optimization. Obviously we know that open source system may not require a much hardware utilization. If we can run in a small amount of hardware, flexibility and freedom, less vulnerability. For the people who are talking about security is less, security is not that much to the open source operating system. Please make sure that the security than the proprietary system is a bit worse than the open source. Because as we know, as we want to talk about technically, the kernel of the open source operating system is still a very strong one compared to those kind of what we call this in proprietary systems. Integrated management. We had a discussion that we need to put out all the government organizations to give us integrated information, which is not at all possible with a proprietary system because everyone speaks its own language. But when it comes to open source, we have an integrated management. That could solve us integrating the students' information across the campus in a single platform. The technologies usually we handle with open source is we have introduced OpenStack for we have built a private cloud. Usually the thing was happening when we were trying to set up a learning environment for the students. The challenge is giving them the appropriate system. They say the system is slow, we don't want to use it. The system is infected with a virus. So we want to really address this. So what we really build is, we build an OpenStack, which is an open source system. What that thing is, we have a virtualization which is running in the background. A student comes in, he has to open a browser which has a form where he can fill his information, he can build his own virtual machine throughout his learning. So this all could be possible. If I went with an open source system, or a proprietary system, for each resource they created, I need to be paying it for. So I believe that with the help of the open source system, we really achieve a holistic and exciting learning environment with the open source system. The second thing, force education. Force education really will build a community, a foundation, like Rackspace. When these open source are being founded by those Rackspace, those people, they have been proprietary in the open source systems. But we build the same, or in the education system, we have an opportunity to build a foundation as a team of people who is working on to build, to develop, to enlarge the opportunities of the open source. I believe this could really address the education should be growing like developing countries in Uganda. They should really encourage us learning, and we need to see them giving lots and lots of solutions to see this country flourishing with IT and infrastructure. Thank you, moderator. Thank you, team.
Thank you. Max, please. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'll be very brief. First, education. This is not a big challenge because you'll find that in the majority of universities, instruction on software development has been done using the standard, using established languages which were open source from the very beginning. For example, languages like C. When we are teaching computer programming fundamentals, we use Java. When we are teaching mobile application development, we use Android. When we are teaching IT systems administration, we use Linux platforms. Okay? But one thing I'd like to clarify is that, and I have observed it in this forum, we have linked the company Microsoft so much to closed source. Okay? And this is incorrect. 10 years ago, it may have been absolutely true. Okay? But under the Microsoft Open Technologies program, there are actually very many technologies from Microsoft that have been sourced out openly. Okay? An example is the C# programming language. Its implementation, its runtime, its libraries, they are all now open source. That is why other third parties have been able to implement it on Linux platforms. So you can now write your applications in C# and target them for Linux platforms, and they will run quite well. Okay? So I just wanted to clarify this, that we shouldn't continuously tag Microsoft with closed source because it has had very many open initiatives. Okay? So there's a lot of open source there's a lot of forced education, okay, that is going on, and this is true, I believe, for almost all major universities. Now, force in education. Victoria University is a private institution, and just like several other private institutions, okay, they will spend money where they think the software is going to achieve its goals, okay? So, if you are selling to me your software that costs $100,000 US, it's proprietary, closed source, if my projections show that in 1 year it is going to save me $2 million, I will buy it, okay? And this is a challenge to the majority of developers who are here, because we've evaluated over 6 different individual companies that are coming to present tools for education. Most of them are actually built using open source software, and the fundamental problem is that they fail to meet the industrial standards that we require. Okay, so why this is because general universities have different requirements. So if you develop software for Utamu, it will not work immediately at Victoria University. Okay, you'll have to do some customization. So you find that the biggest problem we have with open source software is that once you have the tools, they require you to change your organizational processes to match their functionality, and yet it should always be the reverse. The software should match, the software functionality should match the requirements of my organizational processes, okay? So there are different systems of grading, there are multiple teaching techniques, okay? If you have an online Blackboard, some support just PDF, others support variable other formats. There are very many off-the-shelf systems which need schools to adjust to them, okay? And this is the biggest challenge that we have faced with open source software. And because of that, we have decided to develop some of these platforms in-house. For example, our student results management system has been entirely developed in-house. We get our students to do the projects. The good thing is they are using open source software, okay? This is kind of a requirement. And, well, finally, what I would like to mention is that good wine needs more bush, okay? Very many panelists have come and they have spoken about innovators who start developing tools without any requirements analysis, without understanding what the problem actually is. And we have also witnessed this, okay? And I will use my opportunity to preach this gospel. Oracle, for example, its database systems, they are free. They do not, you don't purchase, but if you're a company, and they don't use them commercially, that is when you pay for the license, okay? If you develop your software and you want to get money out of it, if your software is really, really good, it will be seen, okay? You can always come, we can give you a presentation platform, we can give you a trial period of, let's say, 1 semester, and if it's nice, you can even pay money for the software, okay? At the end of the day, what matters is whether the problem has actually been solved, okay? So the quality metrics that Professor Mangeni spoke about, scalability, performance, etc., it's not just enough to say the software is open source, okay? If it does not match industry-grade software, private companies are not going to invest money in purchasing it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Max. Professor Good, over there, please. The floor is yours.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Chair. What are we doing in force in education? I'll start with that. As UTAMU, that is Uganda Technology and Management University, what we've noted and how we came to be was we wanted to revolutionize education in Uganda. And we actually first thought, what are other institutions doing wrong in terms of teaching and learning? So as people who are very advanced in ICT, we decided to come up with strategies that would actually deliver as expected by the clients who are the students. So what we had to do was to focus on certain things in using ICT for teaching and learning. However, thinking about the ICTs, there are two types of ICTs, FOSS and then the proprietary softwares. So we agreed and decided to go for FOSS completely. And this was because of certain characteristics that many people have already talked about. And one was the issue around low cost and saving, and then the ability for them to do what we wanted. So what do we use FOSS for in education? We use it for teaching and learning. We use it for providing that ubiquitous education that our clients, that's the students, need. That is teaching and learning happening from anywhere, at any time, under the wish of the student. So we are able to deliver that through a variety of ways. We are able to take on fast learning system that has been configured to our own interests, and that's Moodle. I proudly say it, we're actually using Moodle, but when you go out there to check it, you may not think that it's actually Moodle. So we use Moodle as a FOSS, but then what we've done is to be able to integrate all the rest of the FOSS around what we want to achieve. So we're able to develop what we call the term hybrid e-learning model. Some of you, if you want to really see the model, the students behind there can show it to you, or you can visit us. You get to know what the term hybrid e-learning model is all about. So what it does is that we've been able to integrate the rest of the other FOSS softwares around what we call a learning content space. This learning content space is nothing other than Moodle. But we are able to pull all different resources from different FOSS within Moodle, and then students can be able to acquire the learning they need to acquire. So this is how we've been able to deliver in terms of teaching and learning. When we actually come into information management, education information management, that's related to how we actually collect information around our students and other stakeholders, process the information, store the information, and then be able to disseminate it to whoever wants to use it. So we've been able to utilize a variety of softwares. An example, thinking about storage. We thought which is the best way of storing our resources, our books. I'm sure many of you have heard about this space. I've heard about Koha. Those are well-developed e-library FOSS. So we tapped into one of them, integrated it within our learning space, which is Moodle, and the students are happily using it from anywhere at any time and at their wish. So that's an example of how you can integrate all the sorts of FOSS around you to deliver a service you want to be delivered. I can go on and on telling you about stories around this, but we have a variety. How do we embed Skype, for example, into our teaching and learning? We have lecturers, supervisors all over the world, mostly in South Africa and the Netherlands. How do they come in, and German, how do they come in to actually participate in the teaching and learning in real time? You can tap into, again, other FOSS to help you achieve that. So we've been able to tap into many of these FOSS to help us achieve what we want. For the sake of time, let me move to force education. When we were developing our curriculum, one of the things we had in mind is that we need to be able to allow students to tap into the opportunities that are out there. And one of the opportunities was being able to use and develop for force. So we embedded within the curriculum courses that teach students on how to develop, use, maintain force. And this is why we've been able to survive using force, because we already built capacity for students to maintain all what we have on ground. I would say 90% of the projects that are being developed by students who are completing their third year are around force. So they found that there is quite a lot of help out there which you don't usually find with the proprietary software. So they tended to move to that direction. It's not their problem, but it's where the world is actually heading. Thank you.
All right. The audience, you are still a good audience, and we'll make this one as interactive as possible. We will now get through. We'll first receive a round of questions. Please, when you please help us with the mic. Please, when you put up your hand, please tell us your name again. And the question, if you're relating to a particular panelist, please mention that. If it's a general question, also please let us know. Okay, Julius, please can you help us with the mic? Thank you. As the doctor said, you can stand up and share it. If you make it on. Okay. But the mic is almost there, I think. You don't have to share it. Where is it? No, the mic is coming.
There is another mic somewhere in the audience.
All right, so thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Just 2 comments. The first one, I'd like to correct a perspective I think I had from me, which is in relation to flexibility of force. I heard that force is not flexible for customization. I think it's the other way. It's the other way around. Force is actually, that is the strength. The strength is in its flexibility in the customization capabilities that you can get in it. That is why it is open source. So if the university wants to build something in-house, that is fine. But again, if you have a tool, just like somebody just mentioned Moodle, you've done wonderful things with it. That is flexibility. Moving my Fossfa chair out, I work in the university as well. And Moodle is just a popular tool that is used everywhere. We use it for several stuff. So don't see open source as being a restrictive platform. It is actually an open platform, and you can actually customize it. It's whether you have the skills to actually do that. And then, honestly speaking, if you want to build a tool in-house, you need the skills as well. So they're the same thing. It's just a matter of using a solution and following it up. The second point I wanted to make clear is that yes, it's wonderful. Microsoft is doing some stuff. It's wonderful in terms of open source, but let's not be confused. Let's not mix things. There are business reasons, which is fine. Open source The fact that Microsoft is going open source as some of its packages is because is an indication of the success of open source itself. So let's not be confused and be distracted on the fact that we need to focus on the line of force. Microsoft is a closed source. It should remain a closed source. Whenever it's open on Microsoft, it is in order to actually keep Microsoft closed and successful in that business line. We support it. It's a business idea. That is fine. But let's not lose focus on the part of developing something that is open, maintaining it, keeping it open, and actually using it open. Thank you.
Thank you. What will you your name, please?
My name is Shio Ojidiji.
All right. Thank you. For the two clarifications, I don't think we expect any specific response from the panelists to see if it is able to clarify. Please.
My name is Brian Sinaga. I work with Fossfa. My question goes to Victoria University and Utama. Now that you have successfully done customizations on these apps, can you find those apps? Can you open source those apps so that we can put them in a repository where other institutions that perhaps do not have your skill set yet can learn from your path practically and basically take what you guys have done and also in other sense to be very practical about this event and where we are. It's not enough for us to just keep talking about what we've done. Can we also make commitments to actualize this? And perhaps I would be willing to commit that the Center for Open Source Software can make this available to other solutions. I think that will take us from the workshops into action.
Thank you, Brian. That's well put.
Okay, my name is Fred Yabua. I'm from Ghana. I want to make some clarification. I've been hearing Foss open source, but there is a difference between free and open source software, and then we also have OSS, open source software, without the free. Normally, if we talk of the free with the OSS, we are doing advocacy. So it's fine. If we are talking about the business of it, free is not part. For instance, National Security of Uganda hired somebody to develop software. And part of the contract, just like James was saying in the previous session, was give me the source. I want the source. We can't tell national security because it's open source. Release the source act because it borders on national security. The good thing is that even if the people who developed it goes or leaves or the company folds, we still can get people with expertise to continue working on it. And for businesses, that is the value they get. It is not a free thing. But for a university, if you develop something and you want to share, well, it falls under the free part if the sharing comes in, because you want the whole community to benefit. But we have to distinguish between the two. Not every open source is free. It is very important because there is a business component to it. If you've heard of Red Hat, you've heard of SUSE, they are commercial business entities. What they do is, they won't sell you the software, okay? But they give technical support. That you pay. And so if a bank orders or give them a contract to develop software for them, for the bank, it's open source. It is not
free and open source. So there is a distinction between adding the free and taking it off. If we want to go even deeper, there is also free software. But I will end here.
Thank you. For the dichotomy between free and not free, we'll take another hand.
I cross over the other side, the last person.
The other side. But we're getting good qualifications between free and not free, which we will call libre. We translate the free to libre.
Okay. Thank you very much, educators in force. Unfortunately, you too much talked about the input. Okay. Alan, once again. Unfortunately, you too much talked about the input of force in education, but we would like to hear about the part of it, the output. What are you equipping the students with in terms of the practical skills and capabilities they are going out with to meet the industry needs? Because like we had some sort of argument in the IT Expo's plan, which was launched this year. One of the employers of Christopher Software was like, we employ guys to come in, but we actually put in a lot of effort to train them for them to meet the industry standards. So I would like to get some response from you members of which efforts you put in and how to ensure that in terms of force, you are actually giving us something promising a lot, that you actually equipping people who want to meet the industry needs. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I want to move from that side. Most people are if it's a radio, but that's not a problem. If there's no APC, we will get that hand. There's another hand at the back. So we have
a lady for.
Yeah, we have this hand here, and then after. Okay.
Thank you very much. I'm called Mokes Arrested from Uganda Management Institute. I'm an e-learning specialist. Actually, I want to commend Dr. Jude for trying to show us where force can be applied in education. For him, it takes it to the application. How do I use force? How do I use force to solve this problem? You see, we're having very many students in university, and we can't reach all of them. The people in the villages who want to come to university, the numbers are very big. But it shows us a perfect example whereby it reaches all those people. So I really want to thank you that much as we're looking at force, where we have educators, software engineers, we're thinking about how to code, how to system analyze, and so on. Here is the reason you're going to system analyze. For example, in education, you're going to treat many freely, flexibly, and you're going to have lecturers share, like he said at his university, and which is like at UMI, we are tapping into different libraries in the UK using the force, okay? We are also having students in the Sudan where they're fighting who are studying at our institution. So this is a very good application for education. Thank you, Dr. Jude.
All right, Julius, there's another here. There was another hand at the extreme end. Near the exit, we'll have this one, and then our extreme end, and then we respond to those questions.
Now, before I give you the mic, can I request, through your chair, may I request the representative of Huawei, Computer Point, Eastpart, Aptech, Makerere University, Smile Telecom, Athenic, Greenwich School of Open Technologies, and ICANN, and other sponsors to come and occupy this front row. Representatives of our sponsors, please move here as we conclude the Q&A.
All right, Dr. Marshall is very appreciated.
Thank you. For the organizers, just a small observation, because we talked about force in education, and all the panelists there are from universities, and I would think that we don't have liked to know how force is being used in non-tertiary institutions, especially in Uganda and Africa at large, because they've done so well to talk about all the initiatives, the tools, the platforms, But what happens to our people who are earning? The people who want to enter these universities, we want to have them grounded so that they are not in a shock when they find an Ubuntu computer. If they come from a university or an international school that embraces Microsoft solutions or any other pattern for that matter. I think it would be very, very necessary that we not force and any other local initiative has done in that area. The kind of content that has been developed for these young people who we all call our children and things like that. When we get somebody who's a little bent at the university, it is very hard. And I'm thinking for us, and also one of the few people who came after the pioneers, we came and open various open solutions like Mr. Kenneth said. And we were very flexible. But the generation that followed us, you can't tell them about limits, you can't tell them about environment. And we have that management studies. Thank you.
Is there please again, good morning for the record. All right, thanks, Stephen. We have a hand at the back, Julius, at the extreme end, near the exit. Can you first? Oh, there's another here. All right, then we have this at the back, and then we take. Please, at the back, are you ready to make a contribution? Helpful if you move it closer or with the mic, which way? Yes, the mic is wireless. Okay. Well, since the mic is being prepared, we can come back to you and ask another questions. All right.
My name is Sogo. I work with Success Africa. So the panelists have been talking about more of force tool computer-related stuff. Do they educate people in other disciplines? Let me say accounting on how to use these free softwares, because there are free softwares for accounting, GISs, and I've seen there have been more concentrated into the computer world. Thank you.
All right, application of force. At the back, that will be the last one, and then we'll back to our panelists. Panelists, please, who will be preparing this process. Some like clarifications that we need to take a look of, and contributions, and then some specifications that we need to respond to. Julius, are you there? The hand is just right behind you here.
Actually, ladies have listened attentively to Nena, so they want to contribute aggressively.
Okay.
Thank you. My name is Caroline Nakandi from Greenwich School of Open Technologies. More about the output, the students of IT that are getting out, how are the universities working with them, or how far are they going to inform them more about the various certifications that are available in open source? Take an instance of the LPI certifications. Are they taking an initiative to inform them about the benefits of those certificates, not only stopping at the training, but how it would empower them having certificates or certifications from the various IT courses, especially the open source, more focused on LPI, because NIMAX cuts across all IT areas. So how much are the universities doing, or how much are they taking an initiative to inform the students about the various IT certifications available? Thank you.
Thanks, Caroline. Are you directing to a particular panelist, or you want? No, I'm not responding. All right, okay.
It's a general, because they are all from education institutions and big education institutions.
All right, thanks, Caroline. Colleagues, it's back to us. Now we'll begin with for some order. We'll begin with Peter. If there are any specific questions you want to respond to, direct them to you. And also if you have any comments on the general questions, and then we will come now up to Professor Hill. Please, Doctor.
Thank you, and thank you for the questions. I appreciate the clarifications. I appreciate them very much. And I agree with most of them. I'll just, since most of the questions were general, I'll just talk about a few. maybe concerning inputs and outputs. I think maybe for the outputs, I think it would depend. But while we are with the students in Makerere specifically, when the learning management systems were brought into place, I think the objective was to try to achieve student-centered learning, where students contribute more to the learning process than being just recipients. So this is how these learning management systems are kind of designed. And this is what is behind the Makerere University e-learning environment, what is called WELL. Then for the computing discipline where I come from, and from the School of Computing and IT, most of our students who do practical work, say software development, are encouraged to use platforms where they can contribute software, because things like GitHub is just there. All you need to do is open an account and you start contributing software. So that is a very simple thing to do. I think there's not too much science in trying to learn how to contribute software online using such a platform like GitHub. But when our students, some of them go through this process, so I think that addresses part of the output. As far as force, there's a question about force in non-tertiary institutions. I believe these are primary institutions and lower level institutions. I think the use of force in these institutions shouldn't be a problem, especially facilitating the learning process. There is certain platforms that are there that provide materials, that provide curricula, that provide resources as far as lower level classes are concerned. So maybe it's upon the institutions, or maybe we can do some evangelical work in that direction, but that shouldn't be a problem. This is something that has been already achieved elsewhere. I don't see why it should be a problem in the Ugandan context. Thank you so much.
Chair, if you can I beg your indulgence just for a second? We noticed that there are some people who are leaving, but we request that you stay around because we have prepared dinner for you. You may recall there is a story of some people who are being invited for a banquet, but they refused to come. And then what the good Lord did. So that dinner is for you. Please stay around and enjoy.
Maybe we are even starting the dinner early. Wait, let's do this, yeah? So are you waiting for us? We shall go together for the dinner.
Thank you for the questions. For the question, what is the output of the force in education? We have a live example which is running in these premises. We brought a set of team of students who just came and represented a software which can run a school management system from the so. What you sow is what you reap. Actually, what they see in their learning culture, they see open source, and they've been seeing everything is being built across open source. That means there is a good potential that we can bring out of it. So in every point of education, we have been developing here the universities, at university level. We are trying to build our force and to bring out what they can produce it to the community. And obviously there should be some hidden cost, because when there's a question came, why do we want to pay to SUSE and Red Hat? For a warranty and a liability. Obviously, you can also go for another operating systems like Ubuntu, where they don't ask for your money. But when you get it from SUSE or Red Hat, you need to get a warranty and liability. but we are forcing the students. Let us sell the software for free, and let us support them, and let us make sure that we have a continual improvement. So that is how the university address the force as output in education. That's all the questions to be answered from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Muhammad. Max, please.
Thank you very much. Regarding the question whether we are planning to, say, hand over the result system for other less skilled universities to use, that was a very good question, and it actually reminded me of a point that I had written, which I did not talk about. Yes, in fact, we were planning to unleash this to GitHub in December, provided that it has gone through the testing, because Fossfa has gone through 4 semesters of testing, and everything is fine, okay? So, if there is another repository that you know of, that we can upload it to, in which it will immediately benefit very many people, please let us know, and we shall do this. Thank you. Number 2, thanks. Number 2, regarding the question on output, I would like to point out that the output of a university student depends on very many things, okay? Even if you have a market-driven curriculum and you have top-drawer lecturers, there are still some things which are outside the scope of your control. For example, the general hard work of the students, the general aptitude of the student, and also their work ethic, okay? So I think universities should be examined on the principle of the trainability of the people that they are rolling out, okay? If I go to a bank and their systems, let's say they're using Ubuntu, okay? It shouldn't matter that the student never studied Ubuntu, how to use it when they were in, yes, but if it's, what should matter is whether they're going to be up to speed in 3 days, okay? Yeah, so this is how the output should be gauged here. If you're using free and open source software in your institution and a particular university did not teach those particular tools, that university should not be a criminal university. Finally, on the issue of certificates, there are so many certificates in the area of computing. If you just combine any 4 letters, you'll probably get a certification. CFIO, CISA. There are so many certifications, okay? So even you may find there are 50% of the certifications that I am not aware about, okay? Because what happens in the area of certifications is that very many companies, because they have a big share of the market, they unleash their own certifications, okay? And people have to learn so they can use their equipment. But you see, if such a certification exists, then there must be someone responsible for it. And if there is someone responsible for it, then they have the latter responsibility of making sure that us, the decision makers in the academia, can know about it. And what is the worst that can happen? The worst that can happen is you telling me about your certification and I say no. And the no may just be for this semester. It may not be for next semester after I have thought about it, okay? So, if you are one of these people, you're in charge of a certification in which we promote open source software, please come to us and let us know about that software. Thank you.
Thanks, Max. And last but not least, Professor Lee.
Thank you, Chair. Whether we can actually give out the developed apps for the rest of the world to use, yes and no, unfortunately. Yes, the ones that have been developed by the university itself, it's actually configuring them to suit what we want. If you want me to offer what I've configured to you, that is okay, because it still remains the same Moodle platform, it still remains the same DSpace platform. It's just a matter of you configuring it to what you want. Probably what would be most interesting would be having the capacity to do the configuration. I think that's what needs to be even looked at more. Can we train other people to tap into the opportunities and configure them to what they want, than simply taking already what is configured and they can't change it after 1 year? I'll probably want to take it in that direction. No, the students that have been able to work on the different apps, they own those apps. So I can't really take control of them and say, please. Many of their apps have already been submitted to Google's Nokia stores and etc. So that may be a bit hard for me to decide. The second question was around so what do we put into the students so that they come out, so that they are ready for the industry? As I say, that we develop a curriculum that entails several things, and one of the things that is embedded in is how to train a student in a particular free and open source software. So the training that is undertaken is through a variety of ways, but we can train a student. Their output into the industry depends again onto the student. So we are doing the training, imparting a lot of skills. They go out with first classes and all that, but if they have a different attitude towards working in the industry, you have a wrong product. Somebody talked about how force is used in non-tertiary institutions.
Also how we can ensure using of force in either primary, secondary school.
Okay. Okay. One, UTAM has led partly in that direction. In non-tertiary institutions, we've been able to help around 3-4 companies in Uganda to take up their own trainings by helping them acquire e-learning systems. PPDA has been training all over the country physically, but now they don't have to do so. They own a fully fledged e-learning system built on the UTAM hybrid model. Bank of Uganda, BFCU, Stanbic, and GIZ, we did the same for them, and all that, those platforms are up and working, and people are learning, for example, financial literacy in all these banks without going to a physical place to sit and learn. They can do it online because of what they've tapped into. We are on the 1st of June, we are able to bring together several teacher training institutions to train them on how they can author content using open source softwares, for example, Audacity. So we've been able to reach out to them, train them on how to do them. Ministry of Education also contracted us in the past, developed for them an e-learning system for teacher training institutions. So teachers are going to be trained now online than what has been happening in the past. What we are seeing is that the lower institutions of learning are also taking interest in using e-learning systems, for example, for teaching and learning. To me, what I've been pushing for is one of the best e-learning systems that I've been able to assess, analyze to the dot. That's Moodle. For the last, since 2001. So, it's very stable, and many of the young institutions are taking interest, despite that a few platforms that are on board. But I think, I don't know if there's anybody from Gayaza here. As an OG, as a teacher. MTN had pushed a platform to them, but I know they are actually in plans of taking on Moodle if they've not yet taken it up. And so many other institutions of lower institutions of learning. So what we need to do is probably spread the gospel much further so that the government takes the initiative. One of the points I actually mentioned here is that there are so many institutions that have adopted Moodle. And actually, many of the institutions that have adopted Moodle have been behind them. but the capacity is not yet spread out there. If the government of Uganda came and said no need of using any proprietary software like Blackboard, because when I joined Makerere in 2007, I found them using Blackboard, which is one of the most expensive software across the world. And I told them, no, you can't continue doing this. And the following year, we had to switch to Moodle. So this has gone on changing to better and better versions. So if the government of Uganda could actually come out and say, what we need is all institutions adopt, for example, Moodle, create a team that can build capacity for the rest of the institutions, I think we can see this software rolling down to the rest of the other institutions. I'm not really pushing for Moodle. There could be other platforms, but for the last 15 years, I found Moodle very, very stable. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Professor Dean. Thank you, Max, Mohamed, and Peter. Please, another round of applause for the panelists. My duty is very simple, just to invite them to speak, and I'm not entitled to give any opinion or any comment as far as free and open source software is concerned. But since I have the floor, I also can say I should have asked, if time allowed, if you have separate dedicated infrastructure. Because when I used to teach, the place I used to teach, we had separate labs. One was what we call open source, another was the Windows operating system. So students would practice on those and would be embedded in the timetable that these 2 hours were doing in the other lab, these hours were doing in the other lab. I don't know if you're doing that. You can go and work on that. Then also, to the organizers, the question from Stephen is very pertinent of force in non-tertiary institutions, and now I'm seeing an expert from the Ministry of Education in charge of ICT and curriculum. I think they have taken note in our ICT curriculum, and we need to see the execution from that regard. I happen to have participated in the development of the very first syllabus for computer studies in secondary schools in 1998, and we looked at what were the design to be taught. There was nothing like open source tools. What is a win? They're all based on Microsoft platform. And we go to China and we examined the first students at the National Examinations Body in 2002. 4 schools that were the pioneers. It happened that one of the labs that was Kaboja, a student had attempted to answer to do their prototype, their document using the application we had not described in the syllabus, and they were putting things on the front page. So we put it up on the front page, and then it was difficult for us to mark and shine, but we do failing or passing. So that now what made now the policies have to be properly aligned. So Mr. Muko, if I mention your name, I hope the message will go clear to the director of NCDC. If we are looking at the syllabus from secondary and the upper primary is being proposed now, propose that we should formalize teaching of ICT from upper primary, how do we integrate in those issues. It's been a good audience, and Mr. Dr. Sanders, please back to you.
We are about to close. But before we go for dinner, permit me, on behalf of the organizers, Minister of ICT, NITAU, to appreciate the contribution of the sponsors, because we are here because of the sacrifice they made of their resources. So we are very grateful to all our sponsors. Earlier on, I called on our sponsors to come nearer so that I could be able to access them easily. Among the sponsors, we have Huawei, we have Computer Point, Eastbat University, Uptake, Makerere University, Smile Telecom, Afrinic, Greenbridge, School of Open Technology, ICANN. I hope I've not left out one here. There's a couple out from this list. So let's listen to them briefly before we go for dinner. So maybe we just move in this order. Let me start with Huawei, then we move on like this.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Julian Stewart. My name is Patrick Tong. I'm from Huawei Technologies. I'm the Director of Public Relations and Government Affairs. It's a great honor to be here with FOSS, and not only as a sponsor, but also as a partner to NITA and the Ministry of ICT, also as the official ICT advisor to the government of Uganda. So it's a long day, and I think our excellent educators and professors, experts, have already given enough good ideas to all of us about free and open source software. Yes, and so I was given like 3 to 5 minutes to talk about Huawei, so that's why I'm here to help you to know about Huawei. Huawei is a global ICT equipment and solution suppliers. So actually, I want to start with our pronunciation. I think you know this logo, the red logo, and we are called the Huawei. As you are asking, who are you? We ask ourselves, who are we? We are Huawei. Who are we? Yes, not Hawaii, not Hawaii, not Hui. Huawei. Yes. So this company was established by our founder, Mr. Ren, like 29 years ago in 1987, with an investment of 3,500 US dollars 29 years ago in China. So at that time, we are just a reseller of some digital switches. Yes, and then with the decades of development, with decades of innovations, and we were engaged with international consultant companies like IBM, Accenture, and we transformed ourselves in 2010 from a CT company to an ICT company. And at that time, we established our 3 business groups. That is the career business groups, the enterprise business group, and the consumer business group. So for the consumer, regarding to the consumer business group, we face to the end users. That's where you can buy the mobile phones of Huawei from, consumer business group, and data dongles, those mobile Wi-Fi's, they're from that specific business group. And the most original business is called Career Business Group. We are acting as a supplier to the telecom operators. Now we are serving 45 of the top 50 telecom operators in the world. And another one is called Career Business. We cooperated with different governments, with the companies from different industries, all the industries actually, because all the industry, they all need telecommunications. So that's where we're specializing. So we have 3 business groups. So now Huawei is the world #1 ICT company. Yes, after 29 years. And the revenue of last year, 2015, was $60.8 billion US dollars. So we are lucky. We are lucky to be the #1 for now. And also we've realized that there are some spirits of Huawei. That is focus, persevere, and breakthrough. That's what you can see from our, those bullet banners there. We print them out and we want to share with everybody. Those are our core values. And Huawei's mission is to bridge the digital divide and enrich life through communications. So with that vision, we support the ICT innovations in terms of like software development, application development, and some digital content development. So that's why we are here, to support the Fossfa. And as what I mentioned, with the spirit of Huawei's, that is focus, persevere, and breakthrough, we believe that we can continuously keep bridging the digital divide and enriching life through communication. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We are who
Hello? I'm Danish. I'm the academic head from AppTech. Thank you all. So first of all, I'd like to thank Ministry of ICT, Ita and Fossfa for organizing such an event. And we at AppTech and Inspect University, we are happy, we are honored to be part of and partner this conference. So we pledge our complete support in all the initiatives and efforts taken with respect to the ICT innovation, mainly with regard to FOSS. Talking about AppTech, most of you must be knowing about AppTech. I've seen that some of you have come to me today that you have done some training at AppTech already. Now with AppTech, those who don't know about AppTech, AppTech started its operations 30 years back in India in the year 1986. In Uganda, it started its operation in the year 1999. So it has over 15 years, more than 15 years of expertise in the ICT training. So we provide certification programs, diploma programs, and at Ispat University we have the degree master programs. Now, a few months back, we attended the inauguration of this Idlelo 7 conference. It was Mr. Brian from Fossfa. Actually, it was his words which inspired us to come up with some, to form actually a club, a FOSS club at your institution. So we probably like to present our FOSS club members who are seated over there. Can you raise your hands on that, please? Yes. Now the idea of this club is not to stop. Let me this person. At Ispat and AppTech, we have understood the fruits of FOSS. Now it is not just to use a software for free, but we feel that there is a responsibility to give something back. The idea of FOSS should be thrown as a seed in the minds of the youth in this country. And I feel we should understand that being together and putting our ideas together, we can make miracles. Now, it is not in this that AppTech we brought the idea of developing and grooming a community of students from ICT to form a FOSS club for developing FOSS. Now, as in I talk, I can to see us members are still doing some code which help to the FOSS development. So the idea of this club is not to stop when the solutions are met, but a platform where new members join hands together for continuous improvement. Once again, I thank the organizers, and once again, I pledge my complete support for the FOSS initiatives. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for that commitment to support us. Next.
Thank you very much. I hope it is on. And I know this is coming very late in the day, and most of us will be resting their eyes already. So if someone is resting is on her eye next to you, why you understand, isn't it? This will be very fast. I think I didn't expect to do this at this time. So thank you very much. First of all, I want to really congratulate the government, that is the Ministry of ICT and NITA, for being in the forefront to make this happen together with organizers. My name is Bob Ochien. I work for ICANN, and I wish I could say I work for the internet like Nena, but I work for ICANN. Like Huawei, I think attempt to maybe clarify what ICANN is and what it is not. Of course, it is not iPhone and iPod, but they are related in the pronunciation. ICANN is I-N, okay? So it's an acronym for quite a long name, which arises from what it does. So ICANN stands for the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers. The important part of that name is assigned names and assigned numbers. And I think in our presentation tomorrow, I would invite you to come and at least understand more why assigned names and assigned numbers is probably why we have the internet working the way it is today. Say from the onset that we've had a lot of discussions today on free and open source. And I think there was a lot of emphasis on free. So I looked up on one of the that starts with free. And I think Nana knows this better than me. It's called Freetown. And I wondered whether if you go to Freetown today, free. Maybe that should tell you something. So even in Freetown, nothing is for free, isn't it? So you must give something for you to get something. Are we together? So I hope this discussion, we have to understand exactly why this discussion is important and what we mean by the free part of it, okay? You see, even the internet is as successful as it is today because of open standards. Imagine if somebody was owning what we know today as the internet. So we are here today because of open standards that people have been allowed and are allowed to collaboratively work together on coming up with internet standards. So maybe there is, that speaks to the impact and the potential of the collaborative nature of FOSS. And in Professor's presentation in the morning, I noted the word collaborative very keenly because that is the way the internet has been, developed to date. And that is the way ICANN works as well. Today I see governments here, I see private sector, I see civil society. In ICANN we call this multi-stakeholder environment, where everybody has actually a role to play. And if you combine this collaborative approach that is defined or that is guided or that you practice in FOSS, then you actually tend to achieve better results. So we are very happy to be part of this meeting. Originally, I really didn't understand what you guys do over here, but I think now I know better. So with those few remarks, I thank you very much and welcome tomorrow for our session. Thank you.
Thank you, ICANN. Next, that is the second last remarks by our sponsors.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being patient and being resilient. And I can say, having studied in a Ugandan education system, I know what it means when a teacher goes teaching past 1 hour. After the lesson time, they go an extra hour and you have to stay in class. But nevertheless, thank you for showing the patience and the love for this conference. My name is Miriga Emmanuel, and I am here on behalf of Greenbridge School of Open Technologies. And the question would be, who is Greenbridge School of Open Technologies, and who are we? Before I talk about us, I'd like to extend my thanks to the Ministry of ICT to go ahead and also thank Fossfa, and also to go ahead and thank everyone that has been a part of the organizing with special, can I say, respects to Nita. Now, I have seen the time spent in the field. I'm not really old. I have met today, had Nena from the internet. It's nice to meet her. And in the field of IT, I have realized every employer needs someone that can do something for his company. No one's going to pay you because you have a lot of theory in the head. No one is going to pay you for that. Everybody needs you to touch something and move something in his organization. And the truth is, nothing is for free at the end of the day, but everything is subsidized to a given minute degree that the mind may think it is not actually expensive, but actually everything is paid for. So as Greenbridge, we look at imparting a certain skill set in the field of IT to each and everyone, ranging from students to already practicing professionals in the field of IT. And that we do it through training. Certifications in all areas, ranging from programming to applications development. We do everything for the corporates. As a matter of fact, the corporates, at least a few of them that we have been training with, is KCCA in various specific areas for which their bosses would want them to know. And as Greenbridge, we look at starting from the younger generation. Our mission to schools and universities is to make sure that the younger students in institutions of learning, which are not tertiary but secondary school, can have an exposure to the field of IT that is open source. And we do believe training the younger generation is going to change something. As a matter of fact, most of the people I studied with are hard-headed. Recently, they never got this exposure. Everybody wants to get employed. Everyone's saying, Emmanuel, do you know a job? And I'm telling him, I have just been with so-and-so, and he says you need a certification. So, as Greenbridge, we go down to the grassroots level of schools, and we enlighten the students. And as a matter of fact, our Mr. Senator Brian even came and gave a talk to the students at Greenbridge and showed them the need to actively work hard. And one thing I can say, in the ever-changing world of ICT, the hackers are working day and night to break a system, to break securities. There is no way the security people are going to sleep and expect the systems not to be broken into. And as various players in the field of IT, I call upon us to work together and impart a generation with a skill set that will revolutionize the communities that people live in. And as Greenbridge, apart from the certifications, we show the students how they can become change agents in the community. And we do this through various seminars as far as entrepreneurship is concerned and development, not far from only the certification, but as far as the mind is concerned. And we do believe that if you change the mindset and give it knowledge relevant to society, you can make a difference. Otherwise, thank you everyone for being here, and may God continue to bless your efforts as you transform the world of ICT. Nice evening.
Thanks, Greenbridge. Last but not least,
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's very good to know that the eloquent young gentleman who has been here is not one of my competitors. My name is Roger Lorenzo. I'm from Smile Communications. I don't know why you call it Smile Telecom. Smile Communications. Firstly, we want to say thank you so much for inviting us to be part of this prestigious conference. We were called upon, I think, on Friday, on short notice. Yes, we are here. Definitely, there must be a big reason as to why they chose to call on Smile. And we are here to tell you that indeed, 4G LTE internet, the very best in the country. We shall continue to support you. We are here for 3 days, and we shall definitely request that you take time to pass by our table and get to know more about Smile. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks, Smile Communications. Thank you very much for enabling all of us to communicate today. I think we have been all over. I've been seeing a lot of tweets going on, and this is very, very good. Thank you, Smile, for making us smile. Now, you have been a very great audience throughout the day. I wish to thank you very much for being very interactive. Can we give ourselves a big applause? Once again, wish to thank all our speakers and the panelists. Thanks for making the sessions lively. And also big thank you to our sponsors who have been able to share a little bit of what they do. And some of them left for other commitments. And we're also very grateful to Fossfa for making this happen. And we can't forget to thank our Ministry of ICT and NITA for all they did to, first of all, to bring this conference to Uganda, and also for the very successful conference, I believe. And also a big thank you to the National Organizing Committee. They have been doing a lot of running around, working behind the scenes, having several meetings. They've done quite a lot. I'm very grateful to them. Let's clap for them as well. Now we are going to have an evening of networking, an evening of really having been here the whole day, you need to relax, by the time you get back home, you should not feel tense. You should have made one or two new friends. You would have enjoyed whatever drinks you want to have in the evening or what you want to eat. And we look forward to seeing you early tomorrow. Our next session will start at 8. 8 to 9 is registration. And from 9 to 9:30 we will start on our first session. So we request you to keep time tomorrow. Our dinner is at the poolside and we are all welcome. Thank you and God bless you.
Ladies and gentlemen, dinner is ready and it's served at the poolside.
Because I didn't see you moving around. I didn't move around, but I discovered what I was taking was not so good. I needed more lessons on how to use the camera. So I said, dinner
is served at poolside.
Except I'm
you are invited.
Should I leave it?
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
How is it going? Fabi already went. She wasn't feeling well. She went to hospital. So
they're good. They're good.
Because I'm going very far.
I look quite small. I'm small. It's the shirt. It's the shirt which is giving. I'm like a small person.
Of course, it is giving you work.
How is work? How it's called?
But it's okay.
Okay.
Thanks for coming.
Since we're here tomorrow. So we'll go through this thing early in the morning. I'll try it. Today I tried that. So were you my student? Were you my student at McKinney? No, you are not.